Truth Bombers Podcast.
Truth Bombers Podcast.
The group chat turned podcast with your hosts, Russ, Lockie, and BJ.
Alrighty, boys. How are we, Russ?
He's dressed up tonight.
No, he's always dressed up for selection.
He's
Russell,
looking very dapper.
the best dressed on the podcast.
By far. He's
How you
even done
feeling?
his hair this time.
No, the hair's not done at all.
Good, Russ.
He's playing it cash. He's playing it down. Well, boys, episode 13, we're joined by the very good-looking, very well-dressed Russell Wilkes and the very strong boy and the new owner of 193-kilo back squat, Lockie McCluskey. How you feeling?
All right.
Your
I'll have
legs,
to mention that on the podcast, Ben.
those big, strong legs of yours, just impressive as Russ's dapper apparel. How are we feeling, mate?
Not too bad, not too bad. How about you, Benny? You recovering?
Feeling really good, mate. Feeling really good. I've been flat out all day. You know what I'm saying? Flat on the back. I was telling Lockie, I tried to get a haircut today, and I just went up to the barber and like kind of shimmied in, and he's like, "Oh, sorry, mate. Like no walk-ins." I was like, "I'm in a fucking wheelchair, mate. Like, that's fine." Anyway, I might go back tomorrow. We'll see how we go. Boys, happy Thursday. A little bit for us to get through tonight. We're going to go through the very interesting selection against our round 4 clash with Adelaide. And we're also going to have a bit of a look at our footy tips and go through our locks of the week as well. But the time of recording at 9:15 on Thursday night, it's halfway through the third quarter. The Melbourne Demons are touching up Port Adelaide. Lockie, which means what for the live ladder?
We've moved up a spot, Russ.
Yes.
So talking about good omens in footy, going into this weekend, I will take all the good luck and good omens that we can get. So haven't even played our game yet and we're already off the bottom. So hopefully the D's finish the job.
I can't believe they still haven't kicked a goal. It's like halfway through the third quarter.
Yeah, I was just saying to Locke, like, when do we play Port? When do we play West Coast? But probably by the time we play them, knowing our luck, they'll like have sorted their shit out and they'll be like,
Yeah.
How are we feeling, boys? First thoughts about playing Adelaide this week?
Feeling good. I think it's a good opportunity to see where we're at. We should be good enough to take care of them. And if we don't, then I think then it's panic stations. But I expect us to have a really good performance.
I'm excited to watch some footy and actually expect a win. Like, you know, I'm pretty optimistic we're going to get the W, and really, really excited to watch an actual game that we're favourites for. I think we were optimistic there was a chance we could have won the last 3 games, but we both had all called that we probably wouldn't win. My big concern going into this week, Tex Walker comes back in after a 6-week ban. Pretty shameful. They put him straight into the ones, haven't played him through the 2s. Apparently he's just training down the house and wants to prove a point. I don't want him to prove his point against us and kick 9.
Yeah, I am the same. I think Walker is a wild card, although not someone who's traditionally like come out and kicked bags against us, which makes me feel good. But yeah, he's definitely got a lot to prove. Maybe the benefit that we have is that this is a game that's being played in Melbourne and not in the Adelaide Oval. So they'll be pretty pumped up too, the Crows, especially after last week and their win against Port. Matty Nix's first showdown win, I believe, as coach of the Adelaide Football Club. So they'll come up and about. I think for us, we've looked at the big teams that we've come up against, not expecting to win, but like Adelaide aren't just going to roll over either. Like this is going to be a match. We're going to have to play better than we've been playing the first 3 weeks to get this win. But hopefully for us, it's one of the games that actually kickstarts our season. And I'm a lot more optimistic about being 1-3 than I am going to be about being 0-4. And like Lockie said, and I think Russ, you said it last week, for panic stations to occur, like that's starting to get pretty borderline at that point. So let's have a look at the selection. Some very interesting calls. Will Snelling, thank goodness gracious, has been named. Alec Waterman has come in as well, as has BZT. No outs. So at the moment, we've got an extended bench, and we'll talk a little bit about some of those names on the bench in a minute. We'll start in from the back line. A full back line, we've got Nick Hind, Jaden Laverde, Jake Kelly, Andrew McGrath, Jordan Ridley, Dyson Heppel. Through the mid, Sam Durham on a wing. Nice to see Durham, I think, like rewarded for his effort being named on the ground. Parrish in the center, Nick Martin on the other wing. Perkins moves up to half forward with Jakey Stringer at center half. Braden Ham still named on the ground, which is something that I'm going to lament and talk about in a minute as well. With my boy Guelphy, Peter Wright, Tex Wanganeen playing the full forward line, Sam Draper, Jai Caldwell, and Dylan Shield playing through the midfield. So, boys, any thoughts on the 18, the initial 18? Maybe I'll kick it off. Braden Ham, not sure how he's still getting named on the ground, let alone in the list. He's someone that I would definitely expect. I expected Snelling in, Ham out. Like, I thought it was going to be as cut and dry as that. So I'm very surprised to see him there. And also Stewart, to not see Stewart be named. For me, he was probably going to be the one that I thought would get the job on Tex. I actually think he's been playing pretty well the first 3 weeks. Granted, got manhandled by Hawkins round 1, but I thought the last 2 weeks, other than his brain fade half paddle over the line, has actually been playing much better footy this season. So interested to see him named on that extended bench and not actually on the ground either. Lockie?
I reckon Laverde takes Tex. They're pretty similar sizes. I don't think Waterman and Snelling both come in. I think it'll be sort of one or the other. So unfortunately for Waters, I reckon Snell probably has him on that one. I'm with you, Benny. I don't know how Ham still is even in the side, let alone on starting on the ground.
I'll go on a slight different tangent. It's really good to see Martin and Durham on the wings and get named on the wings as well. I think pre-season we would have had Cox and probably Langford on the wing or something like that. So it's quite good to see those two young kids get a good chance and get a few games under their belt in a row. In terms of like ins and outs, awesome to see Snelling back in. I think he's a super important piece for us. Waterman and Zirk Thatcher named on the extended bench makes me sort of think that they might make a tweak or two, whether it's Flip coming out of the side for Waterman, whether it's maybe Stewart being dropped for Zirk Thatcher. What are your thoughts, Ben?
Stewart and Zirk Thatcher, I don't think is the straight swap. That's kind of what I'm thinking. If Zirk Thatcher comes into the side, then for me it starts to be like for a Jake Kelly, for a Dyson Heppel, for a Nick Hind potentially. I mean, look, the extended bench will run through it quickly. Flip, Stewart, Will Snelling, Waterman, BZT, Tom Cutler, who, like, to be fair, hasn't been playing badly either this year. Mason Redman and Devon Smith, who's been out of the side for a couple of weeks now. Yeah, I agree with you. I think seeing Durham, Martin, and Wanganeen all named in kind of the side pretty early on, the similar line of we getting those first, not that Durham's a first year, but like getting those first year players that are kind of getting early games early in the season bodes well for us. Like Perkins is playing well. He's having a good year. And the problem with having a good year is that in your next year, your expectation is high on what you're supposed to deliver. So I don't think that Perkins is necessarily fallen off like he was last year. I think he's just set himself some pretty high standards. But while you're just talking about Durham, good to see he's been given another 2 years as well. I think yesterday as well from the club as well. So they're obviously just as hot on him as we are, which is good to see. Yeah. Zirk Thatcher, I don't know. Redmond, I think, is another stiff one. For me, looking at that bench, I would probably say that either Cutler or Dev Smith takes the Medi sub role. So you would imagine one of them is in. The Stewart one, for me, I can't get over it. I'm not sure that Laverde is the guy to go and play on Stewart. I think that they've got fucking Hippelberg, another Hippelberg. Like they've got a few decent, young, athletic, tall forwards, Adelaide. So I would have thought Laverde would have been the key for one of those. I imagine Tex would be the one playing quite deep, where we've been playing Stewart. And Zerk Thatcher is like, he'll get ragdolled. Like if Stewart's going to get ragdolled, BZT will get ragdolled, in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't see. My first thought when I looked at it was like, I don't know where ZBT actually whose spot he takes. I'm with you guys. He's such a nothing player to me, to be honest. Like he comes on, he comes out again. You know, he normally only comes in if we've got an injury. So we've got no injuries that we know of. So I'm a bit shocked that he's in there. I know he's been playing well in the VFL, but it's proven time and time again. Once he makes that next step up, he's normally not up for it. So I'll be interested to see if he's actually named in the side.
I also don't think he has the versatility to be a sub. Like I think if he's...
No, not at all. He's definitely not a sub in my mind.
Yeah.
Speaking of form in the VFL, I didn't expect Tipper to come straight back in. I think he needs another run. But Hobbs not being named on the extended bench. He had a great game in the VFL. Lots of hype about him. It's interesting that we've just mentioned players like Ham being named, and you wouldn't play a young kid that has a lot of potential.
I think Hobbs's problem is someone like Guelphy is playing well, right? And so I think that there's a trade-off between it's good that you're playing well in the VFL. You need to do that if you're going to be a good AFL player, but I think you need to reward good form in the ones more than you reward like good form in the twos.
So Ham's being rewarded because?
Well, that's the question. I think for me, like Hobbs is probably, like I've said, like I think Ham comes straight out for Snelling. So for me, that deal's done. But for Hobbs to get in, it's, well, who's the next one down? It probably is Guelphy. We've talked about him being on the fringe. If you had to put Guelphy and Durham side by side at the moment, I think Durham is edging Guelph out for the spot there in the side. So I think to bring Hobbs in, yeah, maybe Guelph is on that, like, there is pressure now. You do have one bad game that Hobbs is stringing some consistent footy together in the VFL, but he hasn't had that bad a game. Like we've been playing shit, but I feel like Guelphy's been one of the players that can stick his hand up and at least be saying like his effort level's there, like he's running, he's tackling, you want him to finish a bit more than he's been finishing, but he's for the most part definitely, playing his role.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I think he's playing his heart out, and we need that high intensity tackle that Guelph's done. He was best on ground with tackles last week. Hobbsy had a good game, I think, the VFL last week. These first couple of outings, he's getting those 20, 23 touches, but, all reports are he's not like lighting up the midfield in there. He's not playing bad. He's not playing good. He's getting his 20, 25 possessions, but, not being too electric with those possessions.
Who do you boys think takes the Medi sub? Do you think Dev Smith stays Medi sub for a bit?
I was big on the fact that Dev needed to go back in the twos. They dropped him for a reason. That was because of performance. To play him as a Medi sub, put him back in the twos, in my mind, make him work for get 5, even 10 tackles in the twos. Show some effort. Maybe kick a goal. Prove that you want to be in the ones. So just to put him as a medical sub, I didn't really agree with that. So I reckon he should pretty much go down again. Yeah. I don't mind the idea of having like some fresh legs, like maybe like a Waterman in there. We know he could be versatile, or we could push some people back and play a little in the middle a little bit. He can play up forward. So we get an injury at halftime. He's going to have fresh legs and come in and actually dominate a little bit.
I think Cutler's probably ahead of Waterman to take this spot for the sub role. I think if Dev doesn't get it,
do you think Cuts is out?
Yeah, he's not. He's named on the extended bench at the moment, and I would say, given the names that they have on the bench, I think Stewart plays. I think Mason Redmond plays. I think Will Snelling plays. Right. So then you're looking at Cutler, Phillips, Waterman, Zerk Thatcher, or Devon Smith to take the last spot on the bench.
Do you think, Ben, that maybe they're going to make a bit of a statement with Redmond and drop him? And that way
to the sub?
Cutler would stay in, because I think Cutler's actually been performing well, as much as I.
He's consistent. I wouldn't say he's playing well. He's playing consistent. He's getting getting the touches. He's not doing anything bad. He's not doing anything good. He's like, high teens possessions. He's making relatively small mistakes. But you're not standing out.
Well,
I don't think he's been a standout, but I definitely don't think he's deserves to be dropped. And I don't mind Smith as the sub because he can go to halfback. He could move into the midfield. And obviously, as a bit of a smaller half forward, he can play that role as well. He's got a bit of versatility.
No, I agree with that. If you look at the ideal sub, he kind of is, isn't he? Because we know he can pinch in the midfield. He started his career in the halfback and made his name for him there. We know he's played forward for the last few years. He kind of is the perfect little sub when you like you said, when you think about it.
What do you boys think about having the captain take on the Medi sub role? He's not quite fully fit running our games. It allows him to still be on the bench where he can be at least involved in the game, talking to the boys, somewhat potentially coaching from the sideline, and then inject him into the game for a quarter if need be due to an injury.
In theory, it sounds good. I don't know. That's a tough one. Like, it does sound good. Like, we haven't completely dropped him. He's still on the bench, but it's not a good look, is it? That your captain is now the Medi sub, getting dropped as a Medi sub.
It's not really a good look either when your captain is your weakest link in your back six, which is
true.
Leaking goals the last 3 weeks, right?
Turnovers.
That's for me. I unfortunately, I think that the way that it's named on the EFC website, where it has Stewart, Snelling, Cutler, and Redmond as the 4 first named on the extended bench, I think that will be the 4 on the interchange. So I think Waterman, Zerk Thatcher, Phillips, and Dev Smith will all miss, with Dev Smith being the
Well, all the history that they've got with naming people in different positions, I don't think we can look in too much to who was named first on the bench. When we had Francis playing in the defence and he ended up starting in forward.
Yeah, a bit different when they're throwing you around on the ground and they're throwing a few magnets around. I don't know, maybe they're waiting to see. This is the tough thing about Phillips. Like, you came in, you played exactly your role, and then it's like the next week there's no role for you. If Draper has another 2 disposal game in the ruck, that's gonna really be tough for us to beat that Adelaide midfield. Riley O'Brien is he's not all Australian, but he's no slouch either when it comes to winning ball and helping out those mids. I think Rory Sloane's back this week as well.
He's back, yeah.
So they're not a nothing side. This is not 14 waffle players coming into the West Coast side that we're coming up against. I think, that Draper for that flip, that swap there, I think that probably should be considered a little bit more seriously than probably what people are thinking. I think it's very much at the moment Draper's number 1 ruck no matter what. This is like we've said, a pretty critical game, the way that our season kind of lines up from this point. I'd be very much interested to know how much conversation's actually been had around that part of the selection.
Yeah, true. I think they play Sandful in Adelaide.
No, but I mean for the West Coast, right, where they've got 14 players coming.
Okay. That makes more sense. I was like, why are they getting players from WA? Just go to the local leagues.
So, yeah, look, I think Caldwell in the centre. I think Dylan Sheila in the centre, he's been playing well. McGrath on halfback, played a really good shutdown role last week on Petrarca. Potentially, if Draper is getting beaten and the mids are getting beaten, I guess maybe that's a role we might see more from McGrath, is go and run with, even as a soft tag, just to run with through the clearance. Obviously, we know Stringer's going to go through there at some point as well. But I think, like you boys, big Will Snelling fan. And for me, I actually think he can be the difference, especially if it's close early on, 1 or 2 goals instead of 1 or 2 points in the first quarter. Get us up and running, get us up and about. I think Snell is going to be that difference for us. I'm optimistic. As much as there is riding on the game, I'm tempted to make the Bombers my lock pick of the week for us to get up and beat the Crows.
Big call there, Benny. Oh.
I agree with you there, though. Snell's a big loss. And we spoke about this early in the preseason that, players that leave the squad that we miss. And we mentioned it, when he's out, we miss him. If Guelph can keep that intensity up, get those 5-6 tackles. We've got Snell that gets another, anywhere from 7. He was going like averaging 5 to 6 tackles last season, I think it was. Plus getting a couple of extra goals out of him. Like, yeah, I reckon it's a huge in getting Snell back. Very underrated.
Yeah. Yeah. Lucky, optimistic.
Yep. I'm looking forward to the game, to be honest. I think after 3 losses against good sides, it's almost been just a little bit hard to see actually how our form's been the last 2 weeks. So let's prove that we are a side that's pushing for the top 8 by beating the teams we should beat.
Now, Russ, I'm not sure what your plans are for Sunday, but I know Lockie's going to make his way over. We're all going to put our legs up on the couch together and watch the game. So if you're around, mate, thinking of heading in and watching the game live, or?
No, I think I'm heading around to yours.
Perfect.
It's the first time all 3 of us have actually watched a game this season.
Yeah, it's about time, boys.
Together.
So if you're listening to it and you want to join us, I think we'll try and muck around with this YouTube live watch party. So if you're listening to the podcast on the YouTube channel, you should be able to come to the channel at game time. Obviously, we can't show the game, unfortunately, but you'll get our live reactions.
Is there like a bleeping button?
There might be a few swear words.
Is there a language warning that goes on there?
So we might have to set up the camera and set the microphone up, get some special comments as we go through, and then maybe we'll have a can and a chat at each of the main breaks. So feel free to mute us, or mute the commentators, mute the Fox Footy commentators, and tune in. But yeah, if anyone wants to join along, we'll set yourself. Make sure you're getting the alerts and notifications from the page. On to the footy tips, boys. We are doing absolutely abysmally for 3 blokes that think they have a bit of a clue about football. Unbelievable.
Well,
I think Russ,
maybe not when you look back at our preseason predictions. The 2 teams we had on the bottom of the ladder at some stage 1 and 2.
Or to lose the grand final. So we've got Russ sitting in 8th. I'm sitting in 10th. And Lockie, mate, I've got to scroll down a little bit to see where you're sitting. In 13th there.
Not far behind you, mate.
Now, my lock of the week last week was terrible. Gold Coast got smashed by the GWS. So there's a 20 in the tin from me. Your tips for the last week?
My lock was Carlton, who ended up just getting up.
Holding on. Lovely. So Lock saves himself $20.
I think my lock was Port Adelaide, I think.
I think that too.
That went horribly wrong.
So I think with that $40 in the can, boys, I think we've finally cracked $100 in the end of grand final party boost. There's a slab of CC and tries already paid for, and it's only round 3 down. So for me this week, I'm going to go with the boys. My lock for this week is us getting up against the Crows. Lock?
I'll go with Geelong in Geelong versus the Brisbane Lions.
Lovely. That's a big call.
Well, it's a big game. And yeah, I think Geelong are just so hard to beat down there.
A lot of animosity in that one too after the last one. It'll be a good one.
Should be good.
Friday night footy. And here we go. Here comes old safety net. Sydney to beat North Melbourne.
How'd you know?
And once you put $40 in the can, you try to play it super safe for at least.
We tried to have a discussion about this the other day, Locke, and I was like, maybe 20 is a bit stiff after I lost every single one. And he's just like, no, it's only like it's only like $700 if you lose every single game. And I was like, all right, Ben, we're not all fucking made of money here like you.
Nah, it's not that much at all. Come on, stop. You got your first one right. I'm pretty sure you tipped Freo to beat Adelaide.
I got the first one right, and everyone was giving me stick about it.
Yeah. Well, there you go. What do we know? You're winning the footy comp. You're winning out of us 3.
I'll go Carlton to beat Suns.
I think that's a cheapie as well. There's a few you would think pretty cheap ones this week.
Well, what do you want me to go?
Collingwood over West Coast.
That was the other one I was going to pick. It's the same. They're paying the same odds.
You go with whatever you like, mate.
It's supposed to be a lock of the week. It's supposed to be a secure lock of the week, not it's turned into a save my money of the
week. All right, lovely boys. And obviously, maybe the biggest out that we forgot to talk about is Rutten, who's out.
Yeah, Truck is out. I actually don't mind. I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal. He's going to be watching from home. And I reckon we've got a really elite assistant coaching panel. Most of the guys that are on there have all either gone for senior roles or have been touted to be like, future senior coaches or have what it takes to take that next step up. I think, Carousel is going to be, the main man. And from all reports, he was ready and touted to be, the next big senior coach. And then for some reason doesn't want to be, he doesn't want to take that next step, doesn't want that pressure of being a head coach and all the things you have to go through, and is happy being an assistant. So I think we're okay.
This might be a good omen, but Vossi missed the game a couple of weeks ago and Carlton won. And then Longmuir for Freo missed the game and they won. So maybe it'll be us as well.
I've got a sneaky suspicion that Carousel is going to dye some of those greys black, put long sleeves on, and walk out with the number 33, mate. He'll take up a spot at half forward.
Sub himself in. He's not in the medical stuff. He's going to sub himself in.
And Russ, one more for you before we go. Did you see I chirped Alex Rance for dropping out of the Essendon coaching panel, but he's on that Carlton draft show to go and play for like a struggling. Have you seen what they're doing? It's called the Carlton draft. They're sending
there's a whole bunch of people you can pick, and I think there's 8 of them or something. And if your footy club wins, they go and play a game for you.
What if the culmination is like Rance? We pick up Rance in the mid-season draft, and you were right the whole time.
Mate, it's coming. This is my big call. Nothing would make me happier. Nothing would make me happier.
Boys, any other final thoughts?
No, just looking forward to this weekend.
I'm really looking forward to this game. I really am. I'm getting excited, but fuck, I'm still nervous as hell.
This is the problem now. Like, now is one that we should win. There's more and more and more pressure, and it's going to ruin my whole weekend until Sunday afternoon.
I'm happy it's Sunday Arvo, so my whole weekend isn't shot if we do lose. I was pretty sour most of the week last weekend.
If we lose, I reckon we record the podcast immediately. We record the review podcast immediately.
Yeah, I agree with that.
All right. I'm not sure if he's dropped out there, but we'll call it there. And I will see you both on Sunday.
Sounds good, man.
All right. Go Bombers.
Go Bombers.